Hi guys, I wanted to make this audio because I wanted to talk about the quad axel Yuzuru Hanyu is going to attempt before it even happens. I wanted to talk about this because I think the quad axel is going to be more important for Yuzuru Hanyu than for any of us or even the sport, because it has a deeper meaning behind it than being just a quad no one has ever landed before. So, the Grand Prix final was the first time we saw the quad axel in action. We saw it happen. Back then there was no corona, so there were people watching the training session. We saw it happen and we all felt like, okay, the quad axel is actually a thing, it's going to happen. It's not going to happen now, although Yuzuru Hanyu wanted something different, but we all knew, even him, that it wasn't going to happen. It was still lacking less than a full rotation, but it was lacking too much for it to work properly. Yuzu attempted it at practice and finally realized that the element wasn't going to work. But it was the first time that we, the fans and the whole figure skating community, actually realized, okay, this is going somewhere and we just have to wait, and someday this quad axel will actually be a thing. Because if there's someone who can attempt a quad axel and land it successfully and fully rotated, that is Yuzuru Hanyu. And this is because of two things. First of all, his physical condition. He has always had a great physical condition. He is not that tall. He is thin yet very muscular. He looks healthy. And second of all, his technique. Yuzuru Hanyu is known as the triple axel god, king, whatever. He has the best triple axel in the field. However, we still have to wonder, why did Yuzuru Hanyu risk it so much to try and attempt a quad axel during practice at a Grand Prix final event? He had never attempted it in public before, even though we knew he was training the element, but he had never ever shown us what the results of that training actually looked like. Well, this happened because, just like at the Olympic Games, Yuzuru Hanyu missed an element during the short program. Now, I have to mention that during Yuzuru's entire career, I have barely ever seen him make a mistake during the short program. Short programs are Yuzuru Hanyu's thing, okay? It's during his free skates that he usually has issues because of stamina. We must not forget that as amazing as Yuzuru is, he has asthma, and therefore finishing a whole free program tends to be quite the task. And of course it depends on the day, but as the sister of someone who suffers this, I must say that it is no joke. And for example, Yuzuru suffered an asthma attack before his free skate at the 2021 World Championship. Yuzuru intended to use the quad axel as a weapon to win the free skate at that Grand Prix final event. However, of course, this did not happen. The element wasn't ready, but he did have two elements that were very, very powerful. His quad loop, which, as we all know, Yuzuru Hanyu is the first man to ever land a quad loop in competition, and he also brought back an element that had been terrifying him since a very scary injury that he got during training, which is the quad lutz. He jumped a quad loop and then a quad lutz at competition, during competition, and both of them were great. However, things didn't go as he planned. He came in second, and of course this was devastating for him because the scores did not reflect the effort he had put on this performance and what he had shown on the ice. And I must say that his free skate at the 2019 Grand Prix final is not my favorite performance of his, because it was very clear that he was extremely focused on the elements and not the artistry and musicality and interpretation of the music. This is Yuzuru Hanyu. Of course, he performed beautifully, but he was visibly more concerned about hitting all the jumps, jumping and being clean as hell, because he needed to, because that's what this sport has come to. Figure skating has come to a point in which it doesn't matter if you jump a toe jump with a full blade assistance or if you jump a flats. It doesn't matter. The rulebook does not matter anymore. As long as you are consistent, as long as you do not fall, you are bound to win. And Yuzuru Hanyu realized this the worst way possible, which is by being underscored as hell. And, well, I think he came to the realization that we, the fans, had a long time ago, but it was something that was being screamed at him by his scores. His scores were basically sending a message from the judges to him, and this message, of course, came through. And the message was that he was too old to compete, that he had nothing else to show, that he made no improvements worth praising, thus his low scores. The message was also that he was being stubborn in a bad way, and that he was better off retired. As Yuzu said during an interview after the Four Continents Championship, which took place in February 2020, he spent the whole January after the Grand Prix final 2019 feeling like shit. Of course, he didn't say the word shit, he would never do that, he's too polite, but that's basically what he meant. He wasn't in a good place mentally and emotionally after what happened. But he went to the Four Continents Championship, which in fact he won, with a new mindset. And that mindset was that he loved figure skating, that he still wanted to skate, that he felt that he still had something to give and things he wanted to achieve, but scores were out of his control. And therefore, if scores did not reflect what he thought he deserved, then, well, there was nothing he could do about that. So he was not going to pay that much attention to scores anymore. And this is when I think the quad axel became not a weapon to use during programs to battle against a system that wanted him to retire before he even wanted to do that, but a tool to regain power over his own career, future and destiny as an athlete, as a figure skater. And why is it that I think this? Because scores are something no one has control over. Yuzuru as a skater has no control over the scores he gets winning at this point, and scores do not depend on him and depend on people who have personal agendas that we are not going to discuss, but involve certain federations, certain flags, certain countries, etc. But the quad axel, what is it? The quad axel is an element, and elements, you can succeed, you can fail, you can do whatever you want with an element. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. I see the quad axel as Yuzuru's way of tricking the system by making the quad axel his ultimate goal and leaving behind his concerns about scores and medals and etc. He has regained complete control of his career. First of all, he wants to stay. Yuzuru is a challenger, but he loves his craft. Figure skating is his craft and he wants to stay skating. But they want him to retire. Therefore, what is it that he made his ultimate goal? Something that will take him years to achieve, and of course, many years have happened since he started this quest, and we are now here waiting for him to land this jump at the Beijing Olympics, but it has been like 3 years since he actually started practicing the quad axel. Injuries in between, by the way. And of course, he can keep on trying and practicing if he doesn't land it at the Olympics. And I think he has matured enough to know that at this point in his career, he has to look for those things that he can make his goals, but that only depend on him. And the quad axel, at the end of the day, yes, it is very challenging, it is extremely difficult, but it is absolutely up to him. If he wants to give up on the element, he can. If he wants to keep on trying, he can, because no one will go face to face and tell him, bitch, retire. He is a 2-time back-to-back Olympic champion. No one will tell him that. So he has ensured that now nothing can come between him and figure skating. This is his way of saying, I am the one who controls my destiny, and I won't let you dictate what I should or shouldn't do with my career. I will end it whenever I want it to end. And when, after his short program at the Beijing Olympics, he was asked, do you feel any pressure to defend your Olympic title? He answered, no, I'm here because I love skating, I love this piece, and I wanted to skate it. What happened was unfortunate, but I focused on finishing the program as scheduled. And I think this is simply amazing. I want to clarify, for those who haven't heard the news, Yuzuru Hanyu did not have a mistake during his program. His blade got caught on a hole that was on the ice. Things like this happen. It happened to Mao Asada. It has happened in the past, and this time it was Yuzuru's time to be unfortunate. But the point is that he wasn't beating himself up because of what happened. He was very calm and he showed maturity, because everything that has happened until this moment has been a lesson that he had to learn, because if he wants to stay in this sport, he must learn how to not be bothered by things that are out of his control. This monster that is corruption is too big for him to defeat, and therefore he should refocus and create new goals that only depend on him. And that is exactly what he has been doing, and that is why we are expecting him to land a quad axel at the Beijing Olympics.